What I'm saying, I mean it. This movie, man, if I saw David Chase, I would call him and say, who do you think you are?
Coming through on that pretty
Huh?
strong. It's obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell him, what are you trying to
From
prove?
what I'm listening to, it's like a 2-bit film.
It's just ridiculous. Today I have the very painful honor, I would say, an honor only because of all of you, of reviewing Many Saints of Newark. And I can only tell you this, David Chase, if I had you in front of me, I wish I was still in the mob. Watch the review. Everybody, welcome to another sit down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. All is good on this end. Before I get started, yes, the Sammy thing is happening. Just got to have some patience. 22 hours of film. It was a big deal. It's going to happen. So just relax. You know, Patrick Bet-David is really in charge of this thing. At least he thinks he is. No, he is. And they're working on it. And you're going to hear some announcements soon. I'm getting bombarded with questions. Michael, you came out too soon. It's okay. It's going to happen, and you're going to love it. Guaranteed. You're going to want to see the dynamic between the two of us. Unscripted. Remember that. What's today? It's Mob Movie Monday. That is a follower favorite of mine. And today I have the pleasure or displeasure of reviewing The Many Saints of Newark. Now, before I start, and everybody's been asking me about it, just came out, October 1st. Before I start, let me tell you this. TheSopranos was one of the greatest series of all time, if not the greatest, because not only was it great, but it was groundbreaking. It led the way for all the other series, great series I might add, to follow. It kind of elevated television series. I loved it. I'm going to be honest. I didn't see the entire series. Hey, I'm a former mob guy. Sometimes I don't watch all the mob stuff. Maybe you don't understand that. Hopefully you can. But what I've seen of it, I like a lot. I also had the privilege of meeting many of the Sopranos cast. Recently, I had a sit down with Federico Castellucci, the Napolitan enforcer. Notice they picked a Napolitan, not a Sicilian, to be the enforcer because we were the real strength behind the mob. I know I'm going to get wrapped on that one, but hey, I'm Napolitan. What do you expect? I had the pleasure of meeting a number of others. Vinny Pastore. I spent time at Sopranos Con. All great people. It was a brilliantly written show, a brilliantly acted show. Some of it wasn't always tremendously authentic. Didn't have to be because the storylines were great. Loved it. The family dynamic, everything about it, I loved. So I want to make that perfectly clear before we get into the review. Now, let me get to The Many Saints of Newark. People, I want to tell you this. Sometimes you wonder why a film was made. Now, in this case, I can understand because I understand the business side of making movies. And that is The Sopranos. Anything that's kind of related to The Sopranos has name recognition. People are interested in it. They want to see it. So The Many Saints of Newark is allegedly the prequel to The Sopranos. So yeah, on a business sense, people are going to buy tickets. They're going to watch it. They're going to go and see it. I understand that. Was there some kind of passion involved in making this movie? Hey, it had to be done because Sopranos was so great? I don't know. Honestly, I didn't see that in the movie, and I want to make this very clear right now. I did not like it at all. I didn't see any redeeming qualities in this film at all. For me, it failed on every level. I'm going to get even deeper on that. Personally, I was a little bit offended by the movie. Not as a former mob guy. Well, maybe a little bit as a former mob guy, because so many things that I saw were not what happened in my former life. But as an Italian American, I feel a bit offended, and I think any Italian American that watches this movie is going to feel the same way, because they portrayed us as really bad people. Italians, across the board, just really bad people. And I didn't like that. I thought it was unnecessary. I don't know what the writers or David Chase was trying to prove in this. If he was trying to say, I was thinking about it, Was Tony Soprano so screwed up because of what he saw in his childhood? That's why he became Tony Soprano. That's why he went into the mob. That's why he had psychiatric issues and he had to sit with the psychiatrist. I'm trying to figure that out. But even if that were the case, it could have been done a lot more tastefully. That's number one. Number two, this whole contrived thing with, the racial issue that they brought in. The blacks, rioting in Newark at that time. Yeah, there was some truth to that, but they weren't rioting because of Italians or because of the mob or because of Italian Americans. And there was no rivalry between Italian Americans and the mob and the blacks at that time. Didn't happen. So why that had to be created in this film, I don't know. To me, it was almost like, are you trying to create animosity between, what former mob guys were and blacks? Are you trying to do that? I didn't see any reason for doing that, and it was kind of disturbing, especially in this climate. What do we need that for? Number one, it wasn't true, and number two, why do we have to put that in people's psyche, in their head? Hey, the mob guys didn't like blacks. You know what? I'm going to say this out front right away, and people are going to knock me for it. Yeah, Italian mob guys were prejudiced towards blacks. Let me tell you something. Prejudice exists in every race, nationality. It's just the way it is. It wasn't specific for mob guys against blacks or blacks against mob guys. That's not true. Some of my dad's dearest friends and some of my friends were black, African American, whatever. That's nonsense. And I'm telling you that right now. And so I don't care if you knock me for it. That's the truth. That wasn't my experience growing up. Racism exists in the world. It will until the end of time. It didn't have to be portrayed in this movie falsely as it was. I don't know what that was trying to accomplish. They even brought it like it was a war between the blacks and the Italians, the mob. The same thing they did in Godfather of Harlem, but it was done a lot more tastefully. There was a story behind that. They worked together. It was different. It was just offensive. It was unnecessary. I don't even know why it was brought in. Are they trying to be woke at this point in time? If you're going to be woke, do it the right way. Do it with class. Do it with integrity. You don't try to start more trouble. That's not what movies are about. That's number one. Number two, I'm sorry. When I look at a mob movie, authenticity means everything for me. That's why I loved the HBO Gotti movie with Armand Assante. That's why I loved The Godfather. Even though it was a fictional movie, it was done in such good taste. The dialogue, the acting, the writing, primo, terrific, wonderful. Goodfellas, same thing. Donnie Brasco, same thing. Bronx Tale, same thing. These movies are in a whole different category. When I look at the Many Saints of Newark, it's like painful to go through. Offensive, yes, and painful. The dialogue, cheesy. The acting, it wasn't authentic. I'm sorry, it just wasn't. And nobody in that movie was believable to me in their role. Just wasn't. John Berthnall, who I happen to love, he's a brilliant actor. As a matter of fact, in the series about my life, he's one of the top names that the production company, Kennedy Marshall, is considering to play my dad. He even looks like my dad. He's a brilliant actor. Love everything that he does. But when the written word on the script is not the right words, not even the actor can do it right because it doesn't appear authentic. And John Berthnall, he couldn't save this movie. I'm sorry, nobody could. Okay? And I'm not blaming the actors. I'm not saying they're bad actors. They got to go according to the script. They got to go according to the storyline. Now, one thing I do know about David Chase, I've heard it from more than one person involved in The Sopranos, when it comes to the script, you're not allowed to deviate. You have to recite the written line on the page. That's it. Unlike Martin Scorsese, who will allow you to ad-lib if you bring something of quality that might have been missed in the script or might have improved the script. Scorsese will allow you to do it. David Chase, in most every case, will not. So the actor is tied to what's on the written page. And in this case, I'm sorry, I don't know the writer, not at all, and I'm not meaning to be offensive. I'm sorry, my friend, you just didn't cut it. And I know the street life, I know Brooklyn, I know mob talk, didn't work here. So, to get into some of the particulars about the movie, and I'm not going to do the whole thing scene by scene because, truthfully, it'd be too painful for me to do that. But I'll get into some of the things, that really were disturbing. Number one, I told you, this whole riot, to where black guys actually go after the Italians. They have a shootout in the street. Ridiculous. Never happened, never will happen. It was ridiculous, and it didn't add to the story at all. I'm saying, where did this come from? But let me tell you how it starts out. It starts out where we're going through a cemetery, and we're hearing voices from the grave of some of the Soprano characters. We end up with Christopher, who talks about how he got killed and how Tony Soprano strangled him on Route 23 or something like that. And then he goes on to narrate the rest of the film. I don't know where that came from, but whatever. Here's the things that I didn't like. I'm not going to go scene by scene, but I think these things were totally unnecessary. It was almost a defamation of character of Italian Americans. Period. Not only mob guys, but Italian Americans. Dickie Montesanti, who was Christopher's father, he's kind of the star of the film. Don't know this actor. I'm not really familiar with him. Again, he had to do what was written on the page. We see in one scene, he takes little Tony Soprano under his wing because Tony Soprano's dad, who is John Berthnall, is in prison. It opens up with him in prison. And we have a scene there where Dickie Montesanti's father is coming off a boat from Italy with his new wife. Ray Liotta plays Dickie Montesanti's dad, and he gets off the boat and he's got his very pretty girlfriend who's from Italy, right? And she doesn't speak that good English. They introduce each other. As it turns out, we see a scene where Ray Liotta is upset with his wife. He actually slaps her, and he slaps her. I'm not even going to repeat the reason why. She left something hanging in the bathroom that he didn't like. It was truthfully an offensive scene for me. And so he slaps her around, ends up throwing her down the stairs. Now, come on. Why was that necessary? You know, there's this preconceived notion, I think, because of the media, because of the movies, that mob guys slap their wives around, are disrespectful to their women. You know, that's not true. Although I've seen it on occasion, I hate it. I think it's ugly. I don't think it's something that mob guys do. It's something that disturbed men do. Whether they're Italians or any other race. You don't do that. You don't hit women. That's cowardice as far as I'm concerned. Okay, but they had to really play it up in this film. Throw her down the stairs. They have this. It was just offensive. We see another scene where Dickie Montesanti is in the car with Ray Liotta, his father, and Dickie says to him, you know, don't ever hit her again. And they have an argument about it. And he says some things again that are very offensive. The language is terrible. And Dickie ends up punching Ray Liotta, his father, in the face. He says, you hit my mother, and now you're hitting this girl. Don't ever do it again. They have some dialogue. Dickie Montesanti doesn't like it. What happens? He goes to work on his father, ends up killing him, beats him to death in the car. I mean, come on. Is this necessary? It's an untrue story. It's not fact, so why put this kind of stuff in there? You're making Italian Americans look bad? You're making mob guys look bad? We look bad on our own. We don't need fabricated stuff to make us look like degenerates, and that's what this film did. And yes, it's offensive. And if you're listening, David Chase, you want to talk to me about it? That's how I feel. And I think any other Italian American or any other ex-mob guy is going to feel the same way. It was very offensive. It was unnecessary. Didn't need to be in there. It gets worse. So now Dickie Montesanti, he killed his father. What does he do? Okay? He puts him in a building and he burns it down, and he blames it on the blacks that are rioting, that are burning buildings down. That's how he covers the fact that his father got killed. Again, ridiculous, unnecessary. Doesn't do anything to prepare for the Sopranos series. And remember, this is a prequel. So why did he do this? Now understand this, little Tony Soprano, who in his younger age was played by an actor, I don't know who it was, he did a good job, the kid. And then, of course, James Gandolfini's son played Tony Soprano as he got older in his teens. He's observing all of this dysfunction, not only in his own family, but in the mob life to begin with. So, you know, who knows if David meant that this is why he was so screwed up, you know, as the character in The Sopranos, as Tony Soprano. Another scene that was very offensive. Tony Soprano's father comes home, played by John Berthnall. He gets picked up by his brother, and they're driving home. And as they're driving through the neighborhood, John Berthnall notices that there's a black family living in the neighborhood. He gets all upset. He starts saying some stupid dialogue, trying to be an authentic Italian, didn't work. Starts yelling at his brother. How do you allow something like this to happen? Now, mind you, the guy's away 4 years. He walks into his house. There's everybody there to greet him, his wife, you know, Tony Soprano Jr., the whole thing. Everybody is there to greet him, right? What does he do? He walks in the door. The first thing he says to his wife, why didn't you tell me that blacks moved into the neighborhood? That's the first thing he says? Guy does 4 years in prison, comes home, everybody's planning a party, they're all happy to see him, and that's the first thing he says? Why are you trying to create some kind of a racial war between Italians and blacks? That never happened. And then somebody in there says, hey, he's a doctor, the black couple that moved in. The father's a doctor. And somebody else says, well, I wouldn't use him to heal me. Or I wouldn't let him be my doctor. I mean, is that kind of dialogue necessary? It's so untrue. It's so far from the truth. It's ridiculous. And for me, it's personally offensive. I'm sorry, people. Now it gets worse. After Dickie kills his father, what does he do? He starts dating, having sex with his father's ex-wife. Okay? Where did this come from? And then as we move along, and that's his gumar, by the way, because he's married. Okay? Now, where does this come from? Come on, man. I mean, this is so far-fetched. And then what happens? He's going to buy her a beauty parlor or something like that, and they have discussion over it, and he doesn't deliver when he's supposed to, and all this kind of stuff goes on between the two of them. And at some point in time, she, the ex-wife of the father, and now the gumad, try to follow me, of Dickie Montesanti, sleeps with a black guy, has sex with him. They show the scene, unnecessary, but that's it. As we move along, and she feels, that she's not being taken care of, or whatever the situation. So disturbing even to talk about it. Next, what happens? She's all happy because Dickie's going to buy her the beauty parlor that she wanted. We see a great scene. They're walking along the beach. For some reason, she feels it in her heart that she has to be honest with Dickie Montesanti, even though she's his gumad, right? It's not his wife, she's his gumad. And she tells him that she was sleeping with the black guy. He gets infuriated. This is terrible, worst thing in the world. He takes her into the ocean and he drowns her there. I mean, is this necessary? Is this part of a story that you can get into? As an Italian American, I'm offended by this. This is nonsense. And you know what? If I were on the outside looking in and I didn't know better, and I'd say, this is what mob guys do? This is what Italians, this is the kind of behavior, this is the morality that they have, it would sicken me. I wouldn't want to know these people. He kills her. Now he kills his gumad, his father's ex-wife. After he killed the father, remember. He kills everybody. Now, young Tony Soprano, who really doesn't play too much of a big role in this film, we see that he starts to pick up some street sense. He starts a little gambling operation. He brings it into school. They're trying to tell him, you don't do this. His mother gets upset with him. She gets called into school. We see all of that. So we see Tony developing, his street sense, his pre-mob workout, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I mean, it's just nonsense to me. I mean, it really is. But we see young Tony Soprano starting to develop into the mob-like character that he becomes later on. I got to be honest with you. This is so painful. I don't even know where to continue on this. But let me just put it this way. There is real friction for a number of reasons. You can see it in the film between the Italians and the black guys. We see a shootout in the street. Black guys kill a couple of the mob guys. Mob guys kill one or two of the black guys. This war is going on. That never happened. I want to make this clear. It never happened. For all of you that watch movies and sometimes take them as fact, I am telling you, this stuff never happened. It's pure fiction. And what happens in the end of all of this is that Dickie Montesanti gets shot and killed. We don't know who killed him, but we know it's ordered by Junior. Remember Junior, right? He ordered it. We see him later on at the wake, and that's kind of how it ended. You know what? Forgive me on this one, that I'm not going scene by scene. Like I said, it was just too painful. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. If I never saw The Sopranos and I saw this as a standalone, I'd say, what is this? But mentally, I'm trying to figure out why David Chase would make the movie in this way. Number one, like I said, if he's trying to show that Tony was so screwed up because of the dysfunction that he witnessed all his life, well, he certainly got that point across, but in a very negative way, in a way that it could have been done so much differently. I swear to God, he should have had some better consultants on this. He would have made a much better movie. So, David, okay, if you hear me, I'm sorry, my friend. I tell you this to your face. This was an offensive movie. I think, in a way, it could never be offensive to The Sopranos because that was a brilliant piece of work. I applaud you for everything you did on that. You can't take anything away from James Gandolfini, Federico, all the brilliant people that played in that movie. So it should be so far detached, you shouldn't even associate the two. That's how I feel about it. So, there you have it. That's my review. Probably the worst review I've ever given. I gave one that I don't know if I reviewed it, but if I did, it would almost be as bad. But I wouldn't take it personal, and that was the Gotti movie with John Travolta. The only movie I know that got 0 on Rotten Tomatoes. This one should be -0. So Travolta and Gotti did a little better than this one, that's for sure. Actually, did a lot better. Anyway, that's it for today. That was about as scathing a review as I hope I ever have to give on any movie from now and or into the future. You know, I've been reading some comments about the movie, and they're all negative. I think out of 100, I might have seen 2 or 3 that were positive. So people are agreeing with me, probably for a different reason. Maybe they didn't get offended like I did, but I'm telling you, it was offensive. So that's it for today. If you want to watch the movie, watch it, and then tell me if you agree with me or not. I mean, I'd love to hear that. If you see any redeeming qualities to the movie, let me know. Maybe I missed something. I don't know. I'd love to hear it. Anyway, that's it for today. Please join michaelfranzese.com. I'm saying this for your benefit because you're going to love the experience, guaranteed. We have so many people coming on a daily basis. We're giving so much away: life skills, business skills, leadership skills. It's all there, and a lot of personal attention from me if that's what you desire. If you don't, then don't join. Anyway, that's it for today. How do I always leave you? Be safe, be healthy. From the bottom of my heart, God bless all of you, and thank you so much for subscribing. We really appreciate that. And yes, God willing, I will see you next time.